Chapter 5. Maddie woke in the morning to Caroline beating on her door. Maddie, Maddie, get up. You have chores to do, Miss Grounded. She groaned and sat up. Mom, it's only 7:30. Be glad I didn't wake you up at dawn. Get a move on. Fine. She slid her legs out of bed and grabbed her phone off the charger. 3 missed messages from Kit lit up her notifications. She opened the thread. Kit. Scrap. Sorry, Jay. Check in later. Jay, you okay? Hope SM didn't murder you. Maddie? Maddie. Sorry, things got crazy. SM flipped. Alive, though. He didn't respond until she had dressed and gone to the bathroom. Kit. What's the damage? Maddie. Grounded. Kit. And you still have your phone? Maddie. Yeah. She took my board. Maddie! Her mom's voice carried up the stairs. She put her phone away and descended the stairs. Her phone buzzed again as she entered the kitchen, but her mom pounced before she could look at the message. Okay, sleepyhead, you can start with the dishes and cleaning off the counters. When you get done with that, I left a list for you on the fridge. What about breakfast? Grab a Pop-Tart. I have some meetings online this morning, but I will be out to check on you later. Caroline bustled past, heading for her office. Yeah, sure. Have fun running numbers or whatever. Accounting is a lot more than just running numbers, hun. Whatever. Maddie opened the dishwasher. No dishwasher, Caroline yelled from the hall. Hand wash only. Maddie slammed the dishwasher closed and fumed while she chewed her Pop-Tart and checked her phone. Kit. What? No way. Put itching powder on her pillow to get back at her. Maddie, LOL. Don't want to make it worse. Need my board back. She finished her Pop-Tart, looked at the dishes, and opened the dishwasher. She was not washing them by hand. Her phone buzzed again as she finished loading the dishwasher. Kit. Sorry I didn't tell you about Kat. Maddie. Yeah. Kit. I didn't want you to feel bad that I was moving forward. We cool? Maddie. Yeah. Quinn and Emily came in as Maddie finished wiping down the counters. She got them both cereal while doing her best to ignore Emily's concerned looks. When she finally looked at her chore list, she groaned. It was long, like clean the house top to bottom long. Her phone buzzed as she considered where to begin. Kit. Just yeah? Maddie. I need time to process. She sighed as she glanced at the list again. She hated cleaning with the passion of a rocket-powered skateboard, but she also really wanted her skateboard back. Laundry seemed like as good a start as any, so she went to gather the dirty clothes. Her phone vibrated again on the way upstairs, but she ignored it. She really did need time to process everything. It also gave her a smidge of satisfaction to make Kit wait and stew for a while. Maddie gathered a half-pipe's worth of laundry and started the first load. Once it was going, she looked for her next chore. She passed over vacuuming since Caroline was in a meeting, then went back and took some time to consider the chore. The vacuum was loud and annoying. Perfect. She started outside Caroline's office, lingering and going over the same spots until her mom came out and told her to do that somewhere else. Smiling a little, Maddie moved on, hitting every corner in the living room, hall, kitchen, the bedrooms, and the stairs themselves. Kit's message kept popping into her head. Vacuum up a crumb. Wonder what Kit said. Use the wand on the windowsill. Think about the text. Get the vacuum caught on a blanket 2 seconds from being done. Stop and look at the message. Kit. Okay. New topic. What did you think of the crew? Maddie. Nice, I guess. Another message came before she decided on her next chore. Kit. You didn't get much of a chance to talk to them. When can you meet up with us again? Tomorrow? Maddie. Grounded, remember? She took a moment to switch the laundry out, then clean the bathrooms. Her phone buzzed again, but she didn't want to touch it with bathroom hands. That was gross. By the time she was done with the bathrooms, her mom was calling her down for lunch. She washed her hands and checked Kit's message. Kit, okay, but you need to talk to them. It will help. You really need to talk to Unique. She's the one that helped me. Maddie, yeah, I'd like that. Maddie suffered through lunch with her mom and sisters. They chatted. Caroline tried to get her to join in. She refused. Lunch was over and she was engaged in her next chore by the time another text came. Kit, think you could sneak out? Maddie, and get grounded longer. No thanks. Kit, just sneak out when your mom has a long meeting. Unique and I can meet you at the skate park. Maddie, I will talk to her when I am ungrounded. She didn't always listen to her mom, but she knew when to draw the line. Sure, it sucked being grounded and doing chores, but at least she still had her phone. If pushed much farther, Caroline might even ban Maddie from seeing Kit, and that couldn't happen. Kit just didn't understand life under a strict parent. For the rest of the day, Maddie dusted, washed baseboards, swept the porch, and cleaned her room. Dinner time found her slumped on the couch watching Paw Patrol with Quinn. Emily kept shooting her worried looks, but she ignored them. She hadn't talked to her sisters much all day aside from the occasional chore break. It felt nice to spend time with them, even if she was just scrolling on her phone. Quinn jumped up on the couch with a yell. Yay, go Sky, use the sky hook. Maddie smiled, snatching at Quinn's leg. Yeah, use the sky hook. Gotcha. Her fingers closed around Quinn's ankle and Maddie pulled her closer as she squealed and tried to kick away. No, Maddie, no. But you're one of the mayor's naughty cats and I have to tickle you. Quinn laughed and tried to cover her belly as Maddie tickled first here, then there. When she stopped, Quinn gasped and rolled away, still giggling. She sat on the far side of the couch and stuck her tongue out before returning her attention to the show. Maddie caught Emily smiling at the scene, but her eyes held a note of concern. What? Emily shook her head and went back to reading the book she'd been engrossed in for the last few days. Maddie watched her carefully. Did she know? What had she heard Maddie say in her sleep? There was really only one thing that would make Emily act this concerned about her. Maddie wished she could erase it from her sister's mind. She wished she could erase it from her own. Her mom yelled down the hall, Maddie, will you check the spaghetti noodles? She sighed and rose to go check on the noodles. Welcome to Servitude Town population, Maddie. The noodles rolled in a low boil. She pulled one out and squished it with her finger. It felt right, so she turned off the stove and drained the noodles into a colander. She paused as the noodles filled the colander. That was way more than a 4-person serving. Suspicion gnawed at her. She poked her head into the hall. Mom, why so many noodles? Oh, didn't I tell you? I invited John over for dinner. Again? This soon? Her mom paused. I feel bad for him, alone in the city. Besides, it's nice to have company. Maddie gagged silently and returned to the kitchen. She dumped the noodles back into the pot, added 2 cans of sauce, and dumped in the ground beef she'd cooked earlier. The doorbell rang. Emily, she yelled, get the door. The timer went off, so Maddie pulled the garlic bread out of the oven. She heard John greeting Emily. Would he mention her roof excursion? She mentally prepared herself for the possibility as she got out some salad and dressing. Caroline's voice mingled with John's as they greeted each other loudly in the hall. They both walked into the kitchen as Maddie finished pulling out plates and utensils. Well done, Maddie. John smiled warmly at her. First hamburgers and now spaghetti. Your mother is lucky to have your help. Yeah, sure. Maddie handed him a plate, avoiding his eyes. Maddie loves to cook. She is good to help me with dinner when I get busy. Caroline reached out to tousle her hair, but Maddie turned away. They all got their food and sat at the table where John blessed the food just like the first time. Maddie ate, still avoiding John's gaze as he chatted with her mom and her sisters. They laughed at his jokes and didn't seem to remember Maddie was even there. Caroline especially had eyes for no one but John. Maddie watched through narrowed eyes as her mother touched the man's arm, his elbow, his shoulder. She wanted to scream. A change in John's voice startled her. Maddie, you're quiet tonight. She looked at him the first time that night and shrugged. just tired. Quinn opened her arms wide. She had to clean the whole house. Oh, really? John said, smiling at Quinn. That must have taken all day. Did you help her? No. Quinn looked at him with furrowed eyebrows. She is grounded. Maddie stared at the table. Everything was fine. It didn't matter if the stupid tenant knew she was grounded. So what? Quinn, that's not something other people need to know. Caroline's voice was stern, maybe even embarrassed. But John's not other people. John chuckled. Thanks, Quinn. But your mother's right. Family business is personal. Quinn sniffled, a pout just about to roll out. Hey, John said, would you like to hear a story? Is it another one about you and your brother? Emily asked. He shook his head. No. This one is a story about a man who could never die. Why not? Quinn asked, pout forgotten. That is an excellent question, my little friend. Some say God blessed him to walk the earth helping others until the end of time. Some say he was cursed to toil and labor forever as penance for his mistakes. Which one is true? Emily asked. That depends. On what? Your point of view. Maddie snorted. Figures. John chuckled again. Maybe by listening to one of his stories, you can decide for yourself. Want to hear it? Oh, yes, Quinn said, bouncing in her seat. The man who could never die, let's call him Bronte, was... Bronte? Maddie asked. That is a silly name, Quinn said. John smiled. True, but Bronte was what he was called long ago. He walks the earth from end to end, collecting stories, helping those in need, and witnessing all of creation. Bronte gets tired like any other man. He feels pain. He hungers. Cold still seeps into his bones. Heat beats upon his brow. Thirst claws at his tongue. But all these things are small to him. He experiences them as you watch a bird fly, only in passing and far away. Bronte is protected from the ravages of time and man by the power gifted to him. He knows life but is not subject to its torments. Not even the devil has sway over him. Definitely a curse, then, Maddie said. Why do you say that? John studied her, one eyebrow raised. She shrugged. I don't like feeling human now. Living forever and still having to feel everything would suck. To feel isn't a bad thing, Mads. Caroline looked at her with sad eyes that said way too much. Maddie looked away. It still sucks. I like to feel, Quinn chimed in. That's good, John said. Bronte would agree with you, I think, but let's hear more before we decide how bad his lot is. One condition of Bronte's power and long life was that he must serve those in need. It was to be his main duty. Go wherever his master directed and serve. He had a master? Emily asked, blushing when she realized she'd interrupted the story. Sorry. No. Never be afraid to ask questions. Curiosity is what makes stories so magical. Bronte's master was the one who gifted him the power in the first place. You might call him God. Bronte loved his master and was not sad to serve God's will across the earth. He agreed to the deal readily and followed his master's orders wherever they took him. He loved the work, though it was never easy, especially when the master ordered him to move a mountain. What? Maddie hadn't meant to say it out loud, and everyone looked at her. That's not true. We are talking of a man who never dies, but you question him moving a mountain? Strange place to draw the line of fact versus fiction? Maddie blushed. Well, obviously none of it is true. The mountain part is just extra ridiculous. Did he move it? Quinn asked, wide-eyed. John winked at her. He said he would. He never disobeyed the master, but he had his doubts this time. Master, he asked, how do I move this mountain? Will you grant me power to move it by my word alone? I know you are able to do so. The master's voice rumbled like thunder in the sky. I will not. You must move this mountain with your own hands. This alone will achieve my purpose." Bronte bowed low. "As you say, master." The thunder rumbled once more in the sky and grew silent. Bronte looked up at the mountain that towered above him, so high that its peak held snow all year long, and its base could cover multiple cities. The task felt impossible, but he knew his master never set him impossible tasks. Even if he only moved one pebble at a time, it would be enough. Emily raised her hand. John smiled and nodded at her. How could moving only one pebble at a time be enough? "Ah, you forget that Bronte will never die. Even if the task took him 10,000 years, he could do it. Thankfully, it didn't take him that long." Bronte considered the mountain carefully. The easy rocks on the lower slopes tempted him. They were already loose and waiting to be moved, but he knew if he yielded to this temptation, eventually he would run out of path to get to the rocks higher up the slopes. The easy rocks would need to wait until last. That left only one course of action. Bronte ascended to the peak of the mountain. The climb was grueling, and the snow at the top froze his fingers as he dug down for his first stone. He found the solid ground under the snow and pried up the first piece of the mountain with shivering fingers. Not wanting to waste effort, he took off his shirt and filled it with stones. With his shirt slung over his back and filled with the first bits of the mountain, he made his slow way back down the trail. Maddie's stomach squirmed. She felt the cold from the snow-topped peak on her skin, familiar, like an old friend. It was just her imagination, though. She wrapped her arms around her stomach and kept listening. Bronte made it back down the mountain and dumped his load a little way off. Then he turned around and plodded back up the mountain. Back and forth, he toiled for days. Each time he reached the peak, some of the snow would have fallen back into the hole, and he would dig it out again. The pile at the bottom of the mountain barely seemed to change as he dumped load after load. The stones he placed would simply roll off of each other, leaving the pile no higher than the time before. Yet, back up the mountain he would go, time after time. Maddie barely held back the shivers that rippled through her muscles. The cold was inside her, clutching at her heart. She recognized it now, the cold of her nightmare. It consumed her, made her feel forgotten and hollow and dead. She wanted the story to stop, but she couldn't force her jaw to work. John's voice washed over her like an avalanche. One day, a storm came that raged against the top of the mountain. It howled and screamed, yelling for Bronte to turn back. But he did not listen. He fought through it, placing one foot in front of the other, pushing through the wind and driving snow. His skin felt like ice, and his eyes grew so cold he could barely blink. But thanks to his gift, he would survive. At the top of the mountain, he found his hole was filled in completely with snow from the storm. The sight brought him to his knees, for he didn't think he had the strength to dig down to the rock another time. Despair bubbled inside him, and he lifted his head to the heavens and wept. The doorbell rang.